There are certain moments, as an immigrant, that make you stop and realize just how much your life has changed. Not because something dramatic happened, not because you reached a major milestone, but because something completely ordinary suddenly feels extraordinary. And today is one of those moments. We are back in Newcastle, and every time we come here, I experience the same feeling. A mixture of excitement, curiosity, and gratitude. Because after spending most of our time in Busiest, this place feels like a different world. Yet somehow, it's all part of the same country. The journey here already felt exciting. Watching the countryside pass by through the train window, seeing small villages, rolling hills, fields stretching into the distance. It's one of the reasons we love living in Wales. Life feels slower, quieter, more connected to nature. But then, the train arrives in Newcastle, and instantly everything changes. The pace, the energy, the scale. You step off the train and suddenly, you're surrounded by hundreds of people moving in every direction. Announcements echo through the station. Trains arrive and depart constantly. People are rushing to meetings, students are heading home, tourists are figuring out where to go next. Everyone seems to have somewhere important to be. And standing here, you can't help but feel the heartbeat of a major city. What makes this experience more fascinating is where we are coming from, Aberystwyth, a beautiful coastal town in rural Wales, the place we've come to call home. If you've never visited Aberystwyth, it's difficult to explain just how different it feels from somewhere like Newcastle. In Aberystwyth, life moves at its own pace. You can walk almost everywhere. Many students walk from their accommodation to the university, to the shops, to the beach, to the town center, within minutes. The train station is small, simple, practical, and for a town of its size, it does exactly what it needs to do. But Newcastle Central Station feels enormous by comparison. Looking around, it's hard not to be impressed. The architecture, the number of platforms, the constant movement, the sense that thousands of journeys are happening simultaneously. Sometimes, I stand here and think, how many stories are passing through this station right now? How many people are starting new chapters in their lives? How many reunions are happening today? How many goodbyes? Train stations are fascinating places when you think about it. They are not just transport hubs. They are places where lives intersect. If you're dreaming of moving abroad, studying in the UK, curious about immigrant life, or simply love discovering hidden places, subscribe and join us. Every video is another chapter in our journey from Africa to the Welsh countryside, and we'd love to share it with you. As someone who grew up in Africa, experiences like this still feel special. Back home, public transport looked very different. That doesn't mean it didn't work. It simply worked in another way. Many African cities rely heavily on shared taxis, minibuses, informal transport networks, systems that evolved to meet local needs. In many places, transport is incredibly flexible. Vehicles don't always follow strict schedules. Instead, they respond to demand. When enough people need to travel, transport becomes available. And honestly, there are lessons to be learned from that approach too. Because sometimes flexibility can be just as valuable as structure. But what stands out to me in Newcastle is the organization, the predictability, the fact that the entire network operates according to carefully planned schedules. People know when to leave home, they know when the next train is arriving, they know how long the journey should take. For someone experiencing this from an immigrant perspective, That's genuinely impressive. Another thing I appreciate is the technology. Mobile apps, digital tickets, live departure boards, real-time updates, these things save time. They reduce uncertainty and make traveling feel less stressful. What's interesting though is that technology isn't unique to the UK. Across Africa, innovation is happening too. Mobile payments have transformed daily life in many countries. Transport apps are becoming increasingly common. Digital solutions are helping millions of people navigate growing cities. Sometimes, when people compare countries, they imagine one side has innovation and the other doesn't. But reality is much more complicated than that. Innovation looks different depending on the local needs. And that's something living abroad has taught me. One of the biggest surprises after moving to the UK was actually the cost of travel. Before arriving, I assumed public transport would automatically be affordable, but that isn't always the case. Train tickets can be expensive, especially if you book late, and for students, every pound matters. For immigrants building a new life, every pound matters. It's one of those realities that people don't always talk about when discussing life abroad. The infrastructure is excellent, the reliability is impressive, but there is the financial cost attached to that convenience, and that's why many people carefully plan their journeys in advance. Living in Aberystwyth has taught us something important. Transport challenges aren't simply a question of whether a country is developed or developing. Population matters, geography matters, distance matters. Investment follows demand. And that's why in some ways, rural Wales reminds me of smaller towns back home, not because they are identical, but because they face similar practical realities: fewer people, greater distances, limited demand, different priorities. When you live in a major city, it's easy to forget how difficult it can be to maintain extensive transport systems in less populated regions. Aberystwyth shows that challenge very clearly. One thing I love about traveling around the UK is how it constantly challenges assumptions. Before moving here, I imagined Britain as one thing, one experience, one lifestyle, but the reality is completely different. Every region feels unique. Every city tells a different story. Every community has its own character. And that's why returning to Newcastle always feels exciting. It's another reminder that there's still so much to discover, even within a country we've been living in for years. Standing here today, watching trains arrive from different parts of the country, I feel grateful. Grateful for the opportunity to experience life from a different perspective, grateful for the lessons we've learned, grateful for the journey that brought us here, because being an immigrant isn't only about adapting to a new country, it's about learning to appreciate things you might have once overlooked: a train station, a train journey, a ticket, a timetable, things that many people see every day. But for someone who grew up thousands of miles away, they can still feel remarkable. And maybe that's why we continue sharing these experiences. Not because Newcastle is the biggest city, not because this station is the most famous, but because every journey teaches us something about Britain, about Africa, about home, and about ourselves. If you've ever moved abroad, traveled far from home, or experienced culture shock in unexpected places, let us know in the comments. We'd love to hear your story. And until the next adventure, this is Travel and Tales.